Good afternoon or morning, depending on where you live. Welcome to the second Fibromyalgia Chats with Lynn and Trudy. And our topic today is how to enjoy the holiday season with fibromyalgia. It's so nice to have you here with us today. This presentation is being recorded for FACT's newly launched YouTube channel, which is now available, and it is the first link in the chat if you want to click on there. The launch was announced in the fall newsletter and also will be announced on FACT's social media. So if you don't receive FACT's newsletter, you have to be a member of FACT and you can join, and that's the second link in the chat. So I would like to say that although Lynn and I share over 60 years of experience living with fibromyalgia, the chat we're about to have is for informational and educational purposes only and does not substitute for professional medical advice or consultations with your healthcare professionals. We are not doctors and are only speaking from our own experience. Remember, everyone with fibromyalgia is different, and different treatments and self-care methods will work differently for everyone. Always consult with your doctor for personalized medical advice. Never disregard or delay seeking professional medical advice or treatment because of something you've heard on fibromyalgia chats. If you have any technical issues, please contact Mario, and that is the third link in the chat. Mario is the vice chair of FACT and will be keeping an eye on the chat for Lynn and I and helping with any technical issues. So let's get started. And my name is Trudy Flynn, and I am the chair of the board of directors at Fibromyalgia Association Canada, or FACT as we like to call it. I would like to start by saying that although people attending may be spread across Canada, I am located in Mi'kma'ki, the ancestral and unceded territory of the Mi'kmaq people. This territory is covered by the treaties of peace and friendship, which Mi'kmaq first signed with the British Crown in 1726. These treaties did not deal with the surrender of lands and resources, but in fact recognized Mi'kmaq title and established the rules for what was to be an ongoing relationship between nations. In Nova Scotia, we are all treaty people. As part of this acknowledgement, I also recognize the histories, contributions, and legacies of the African Nova Scotian people who have been here in Nova Scotia for over 400 years. I recognize that without action, an acknowledgement is empty. An acknowledgement marks the beginning of the work ahead of us and not the end in FACT's journey towards reconciliation. So, as I previously said, Lynn and I are going to chat today about how to enjoy the holidays with fibromyalgia, and I am going to turn it over to Lynn.
Thanks, Trudy. My first question for you is, are you ready for the holidays?
I am actually. I
Oh
have
my
all my
gosh.
Christmas shopping done.
You'll be able to share some things with us later on about how you managed to get that done. I will just declare right now, I'm not ready, and my family does celebrate Christmas. So I'm Lynn Cooper. I'm coming to you from Kitchener, Ontario, and I'm living on the traditional territories of the Haudenosaunee and the Anishinaabe nations. Today, we're going to be making some connections for you. You know, the holidays are upon us. We have fibromyalgia, and we're dealing with that. It's important to acknowledge that the fact that we have fibromyalgia actually impacts our experience and the activities that we can do within the holiday season. And also, the reverse is true, that the holiday season and all the activities that we can be doing for fun, and some of them a little bit challenging, can really impact our fibromyalgia symptoms. But we know, Trudy and I, from personal experience, that there are so many things that a person can do that can help themselves to deal with these challenges and to actually have some enjoyment and fun during the holiday season. Trudy and I met, about a week ago, and we were talking about our outline and what we would discuss today. And Trudy shared something with me that I didn't know. She shared a quote from Morgan Freeman, who, Trudy, you told me that he declared that he lives with fibromyalgia. And if I may, I'd just like to read that quote because I think it's really appropriate here. Mr. Freeman said, "I only have one life, and I will not let fibromyalgia take the joy from living it." And I think especially at this time of year, it's we could listen to what Mr. Freeman has said and see what we can do about that. And so now, Trudy, we are going to talk very briefly about some of the challenges of living with fibromyalgia that impact the holidays, our scheduling, what we can do, our preparations. So I'm just going to give them the bullet points and let's have a discussion about it. So we talked about the challenges as energy levels, the pain we experience with fibro, the fatigue, um, brain fog, memory issues, and non-restorative sleep. So where would you like to start, Trudy? Over to you.
Well, energy levels are probably my number one problem at Christmas time. Excuse me. And I think part of it has to do with what I eat, but part of it has to do with just the hustle and bustle and stress. So I think that's the one thing that I have to focus on the most during the holiday season. And unfortunately, that carries on then into January and February. So I've had fibromyalgia for over 31 years, and I'm still battling with next year I'll do this better. Next year I'll do this better. So this is the year I'm trying to do this better this year. And so I find going out shopping takes a lot of energy out of me. And the smells of the stores, because I also have multi-chemical sensitivities.
Mhm.
So this year I shopped online. All my shopping was done online or on the telephone. Sometimes I called places, and so I did it through email, shopping online, and the telephone. So that's helped a great deal. And that's why, Lynn, when you asked if I was ready for Christmas, I could say yes. I also have a daughter who prods, Mom, have you ordered this yet? Mom, have you ordered this yet? So I'm very grateful actually for that because I tend to leave things till the last minute. So how about you, Lynn?
Well, I'm struggling this year a little bit with work, life, family balance. As we're already at the 6th of December, and I have some really incredible projects that I'm working on with the Power Over Pain portal, which you heard about last time, and also with the Canadian Injured Workers Alliance. And so those things are keeping me busy. I organize a lot of meetings and so um, I'm busier than usual. I can tell you that I'm having the issues of feeling overwhelmed, I think, right now, Trudy, with feeling as though I have so many balls in the air and wondering if I've got that energy to be able to honor all the commitments that I've made and yet take some time for me, which I feel, and my family, which is really important for um, enjoying the holiday season. And I'm hosting this year. I have siblings and other family members coming for the holidays, and some arrive a little bit before Christmas time, and some stay a little beyond Boxing Day for us. So it's kind of about a week extension of time there. And so I'm looking forward to discussing some hacks and things that we can do. But I'm sure other people um, might be experiencing the same thing, wondering how you're going to get it all done and how you're going to remember to do all these things with the memory issues that we can have. And the sleep is really something that that I work at. And I know we're going to, right now, we're identifying some of the challenges, and I know we're going to get into what we can do shortly about some of the challenges. So what if we go on to some of the season challenges that, and you touched on a couple there about the shopping and um, some of the stress. Would you like to take over there, Trudy, and identify some?
Sure. Socializing is exhausting. So I'm listening to what you're saying, thinking, thank goodness I don't have people coming for a week. I do find that, and maybe it's since COVID too, that you're not used to socializing a lot. That can be exhausting.
Mhm.
And especially if they're in your home, right? It's
Yes.
more exhausting if people are staying with you. So I find that difficult. Sleep, um, yeah, sleep is really important. And I find if I don't get enough sleep, then it's like everything goes helter skelter because sleep is my number one thing too. So, and pain, I don't know, the more sugar I eat or treats that you get at Christmas time, the worse my pain is. That's why January and February are such difficult months. So when you're going into the holiday season, I think you have to think about the repercussions of what you do as well, right? Like it
Mhm.
may be that you get through Christmas, but then what, right?
Yeah.
So, and I think that's important. This year, I'm really striving to not crash in January and February.
I feel that we've already got our next chat with Trudy and Lynn, the aftermath of the holiday season and how to come out of it.
Well, that would be a great one because it's hard to come out of the aftermath of Christmas, actually.
Mhm.
That would be a great topic. So,
Yeah.
Um, memory issues is an issue too, and I find the more I'm exposed to and the tireder and more stressed I am, the worse the memory is too. So I think
Mhm.
people um, need to be aware that it's like um, a cascade, right? One thing gets out of
Yes.
balance, and everything gets out of balance. So,
Yes. And I know when we were preparing for today, we talked about a lot of the stressors
mhm.
that that this whole month of December really can bring with it. You mentioned you were glad you weren't hosting for a week like I am, and you talked about shopping um, and how that can be wearing on a person. Also, um, many folks have lots of social engagements that they can be invited to, and you don't really want to disappoint anyone. And so, we're going to have some things to share about that later on, how to manage going to different social engagements. Also, we talked about family dynamics
Yes.
and how those can cause sometimes some stress. And you mentioned about people being in your home, more people than usual in your own personal space, and that can make a difference. Something that I struggled with over the years was the expectations, especially when I'm hosting, the expectations that I have on myself about all the things that need to be done before all those wonderful people come through my front door.
Yes,
And
and the guilt that goes with that, if you can't meet the expectations, right?
and so some of those I've found over the years are realistic, and some of those expectations aren't. And I think the gift to myself has been that over the years I've been able to recognize that some of them I could just let go. And nobody's going to see in the closet that's down the stairs. It does not have to be cleaned out, that kind of a thing. Um, Another challenge that people can often have when you watch the Christmas movies or the holiday movies, or you hear people talking about the season, and they mention that it's the most wonderful time of the year. And sometimes people feel pressured to feel happy and to be joyous. And sometimes, just because of life circumstances, it isn't the most wonderful time of the year. And that can really put um, a lot of emotional stress on us. And some people just really struggle at this
Mhm.
time of year. I can share that we had a death in my immediate family many years ago on Christmas Eve. And um, that the grief goes, um, but you always remember, and you can always be impacted. I'm always impacted. And so there are times when I'm not as joyous about Christmas Eve as someone else might be, but that's okay. And I surround myself with the family who is here, and we go through it together. So that there can be challenges like that.
I agree on that one, Lynn. I had my brother passed away during COVID in mid-December, and that Christmas was very difficult. And every year I decorate, and I think that's one of the reasons I decorated so early this year is because he used to send me gifts. Like, he was a woodworker and he sent me
Oh,
beautiful pictures. And so every year when I hang those pictures, I go through that whole grief process when I'm hanging the decorations. So I thought I'd get ahead of it this year. I did it in November, hoping that it wouldn't tarnish the build up to Christmas. But
exactly.
it's true. I still remember, and it still does affect that. So, and something else, uh, they paint such a perfect picture of Christmas, right? And there's so many people out there who don't, who are alone and who are lonely during Christmas. And and particularly now we have people who are homeless during Christmas or unhoused, and
Mhm.
it's going to be a difficult year this year for many people at Christmas time. So it's, I don't know, but it's unrealistic expectations that we place on ourselves. You're right,
Yes. And the
and
season
others
itself.
and others place on us, and the season itself places on us. That's right. It's
And
that
that,
strive for perfection, right?
yes, and that we can inadvertently put unrealistic expectations on others as
Hmm.
well. And so I find that having conversations, um, along the way for the holidays. And Hanukkah starts tomorrow, so there'll be many people um, who have got those holiday plans and those uh, religious plans as well. And so it the season can be happy and somber and sad and joyous and all of these feelings mixed in all at the same time. And I think um, what I've learned is to sort of take it one day at a time and one step at a time and enjoy. For instance, last night in my living room, I just went around and turned on the candles. I have the battery operated ones, and the living room was dark, and I just went around and turned the candles on. And as I walked through my little house, I could see that um, how pretty that looked. And I don't have that many decorations, but I really just stood for a moment and I took in a breath and I thought about all the things for which I can be grateful for. And well, not all of them, but I made that conscious choice to do that. And I had a little bit of peace, which I just wanted to share with you today.
Well, thank you, Lynn. And I do. I think I find, and maybe it's as I get older, I find I'm getting pleasure out of smaller things. I'm appreciating it. Or maybe since the loss of my brother, I realized that some things you just need to enjoy the moment, right? And I think that we all living with fibromyalgia, we have to accept that, right? We do live with fibromyalgia, so we need to uh, lower our expectations and lower everybody else's expectations. I'm someone who doesn't find it easy to ask for help.
Mhm.
So my family are always saying, "Why didn't you ask me to help you with that?" And I'm like, "I can do that." But in fact, it would have been easier if I had just asked for help, right? So I think we all need to learn to ask for help. And I think that could be a big part of enjoying things more if other people help you with it. And sometimes we actually take away from others people's pleasure by
Yes.
doing it all by yourself. And I think sometimes people appreciate you letting them help you. So it's you have to look at things from two sides, right?
Hmm. Yes, and when I sent out the invitation for our holiday celebrations, one of the things that I put right in the email was many hands make light work. And um, so people are bringing things. I know we're switching here, but I think we could just do that. You know, um, People are bringing things. Everybody is bringing their favorite cookie. And so rather than me thinking I'm making all the cookies or all the desserts and everything, people are contributing. And actually, my sister was here last week and she said, Lynn, I'm bringing this and that. And here are my favorite squares. And please put them in the freezer or you'll eat them all before Christmas. And she was right. She was right. So I've only gone to the freezer twice. Okay. So I think I'm doing pretty well. But what a relief to know
Mhm.
that people are making something that they love to have at the holiday time. They're making it and bringing it. And everybody who's coming has said, I'm on board. Let's just make this a different, you know, a more laid back time together. And it's going to happen. And it's a really good thing because, as I said, I'm really struggling with the work-life balance just right now to finish up or set the stage for some incredibly wonderful projects that start in January. And I really want to enjoy things. So, we talked about how we do this, Trudy. And I said to you that for years now, I plan, I pace, I try. Let's be clear. Some days I don't do so well. That would be unrealistic. And I prioritize, and I do that every day. So for life, I do this. For my work, I do this, and also for the holiday season. And I look at the things that need to be done, and I make a list. And just like Santa, I check it twice, at least more. And do you do that? Do you
I
make lists?
Oh, yes. I have real issues with fibro frog. And so, yes, I make lists and then I make lists of my lists. So, yes, I make lists. I'm trying to view this holiday season as an opportunity to address some of my challenges of fibromyalgia, but also I normally always say I'll do that in the new year, but this year I'm not doing that so much. I'm thinking
Okay.
in order to enjoy this Christmas, I need to get some of my fibromyalgia symptoms under control. So I'm trying to do that. I'm trying to have a specific bedtime. I'm trying to get up at the same time every day. I'm trying to exercise more. And interestingly, on the weekend, I took part in two runs, but I use that word loosely because I walked. And I haven't exercised a lot lately, and I slept so well that night. And I thought, wow, there's something missing in my life. And obviously it's exercise because that's how I control my fibromyalgia is exercise. I know not everyone can do that, but and yet I haven't been doing it, knowing that's my number one way of controlling it. So I'm using this Christmas to take some family time to go on walks together, to do things like that together. So I'm looking on it as kind of a challenge to get some control back of my fibromyalgia symptoms. So
I
but I definitely have a management plan. I definitely do this year.
it's important.
Mhm.
I do, this. I do a lot of peer teaching
Mhm.
about pain management, and one of the things I talk about is having a management plan for persistent pain, and that includes the planning, pacing, and prioritizing, of course, but it includes having some some tools that I use for pain reduction. I have years ago I invested in a heating wrap that comes. It's an electric
Mhm.
one with moist heat that comes around here, and I can use it on my lower back as well. And if I'm feeling um, that is what I could do, I will just set this up and just let it run for 15 minutes. And that can help to bring the blood back into those muscles and help to reduce some of the pain. So a person can do things like that. Some people will identify that massage therapy helps them, or going to physiotherapy, doing some exercises that a health professional prescribes to them. Movement for me, when they're saying motion is lotion, I 100% agree with you on that. I make time every day to do the level of walking that I'm able to do. So some days it can be up there in a number of kilometers, and some days depending how I'm feeling, it would be 15 minutes, you know, but movement really makes a difference. And I agree with you about my quality of sleep. It's so much better. There is a really good video on the Power Over Pain portal. It was a webinar that we had. If people go to the events section on the portal, you can find this webinar about things you can do to help improve your sleep.
Mm.
And that's something that we can still do before Christmas and move that right into the new year. Another thing that I do, Trudy, to help in my management with pacing is building in some resting times. Don't you find that with the season, there are so many to-dos that often you feel like you're kind of running around?
Yes, yes, I do. But I circumvented that this year by getting my shopping done in November. And so this sounds crazy, but now I've actually find I'm better this Christmas than I have been all year. I shut my computer off at supper time. I sit down with my family and watch a Hallmark movie every
Me
night.
too. Me too.
And I find that so relaxing. Now, I set an alarm because we have a tendency when one finishes saying, "Do you want to watch another one?" And that's not good. So I watch one and then I get ready and I go to bed. And I've decorated my bedroom this year. I've never decorated my bedroom before. And I did it because now when I come in my bedroom, I smile. And it's like, has made all the difference in the world. It has, it's so relaxing to come in and smile at my ornaments and think, it looks nice in here. And just like you did by lighting your candle, I come in here and look at everything and I feel relaxed when I go to bed. I really do. And it's nice. Um,
Bringing yourself moments of joy like that.
yes. And it's intentional. You have to be intentional about it to bring yourself moments of joy. You have to figure out what is it that brings me that moment of joy and be intentional about it. Make sure it's there so you can look at it and smile at it and you know and relax because you talked about your heating. I use a heating pad. I sleep on a heating pad actually, and now it's time. So I go to sleep and it shuts off automatically.
Mhm.
And then when I wake up in the middle of the night, I just flick it back on and then it goes off again. But I find that really helps with the pain because and I can move it because some nights it's hip pain, some nights it's lower back pain, some nights it's my shoulder. So it's easy to just move around. So I find that really helps with my pain. And um, something that I would advise some people to do is do medication checks. This is a good time of year to check with your pharmacist to make sure that some of your feelings aren't side effects from some drugs or interactions between drugs. I think it's always important a couple times a year to do medication checks and pharmacists are more than happy to help you with that. And but you have to be honest with them. And for a long time, I wasn't honest with my pharmacist or even my doctor for that matter. I didn't say I was taking quercetin and I was taking vitamin C and magnesium. So she had no way of knowing that. And so I have only found, since I was a little more honest about that, having a pharmacist say to me, well, this does react with one of the medications you're on. And so she didn't say come off it. She just said change the time of day that you're taking it. So you're not taking them both at the same time. And so it's important because my medication was asthma medication. And I found that it wasn't working. And that's the reason it wasn't working, is because it was interacting with a vitamin I was taking. So, it's as simple as that. And then so I would suggest that a couple times a year. And I say Christmas because it's a landmark kind of time. So it's every year. If you did it in December, you're more apt to remember and more apt to do it, right? Because you wouldn't forget. It's just not. I don't know about you, but February bleeds into March, which goes into April, and you lose track. Oh, I was supposed to do that back in February. But you're more apt to remember it if you tie it into, say, Christmas time. So I think a
Or
lot of
even,
planning goes into these things, right?
yeah, or even knowing that the year end is coming.
Yes,
So get it done before New Year's Day, before the beginning of the next year.
yes,
And yeah, just make sure that your medications and everything that you're taking are working well together for you during the holiday season so that you have that help um, in the Christmas time
yes.
and
And
then
and
use
the
use other
pacing's
things
really
too.
important. I agree with
Yeah,
you when you say pacing. That's really important.
I know. And those lists for me really help me to with the planning of what I'm going to do. What can, on usually on Sundays, I take a look at, well, what are the events like this one that we're recording? So I looked at that and I went, aha, get prepared for this. And then what happens in my life and then what's happening with family. And you notice I separated that because
Yes,
I'm me, I'm a person. And like you've been saying, I need to think about what's important to me. My family is important to me, absolutely. And my friends are really important to me. I need to think about me and what I need to do for me so I can be the best Lynn to be able um, to have my best relationships
yes,
and to support those who need support. And so I look at all of that and then see, is this week what I'm planning for me, the household, and my volunteer and work, what what's possible, what's realistic, and do I need to shift things? Because feeling overwhelmed about everything, um, I just tend to shut down. I just
oh,
tend to be very unproductive. Is that
me
a
too.
word? Not
Yes.
productive. And then I feel that I feel stress about that, and then that doesn't help. So then I start to spin. So if I plan it, and then I look at what's most important, and being here with you today for this week was really important to me. So I moved a few other things so that I could pace myself into doing this with you. And I'm quite fine with that. So that meant I prioritized this event and I did what I needed to get here. And you can do that in your life. I don't want to belabor it, but it's really important. And I do that every day with my list for the day.
It's interesting because feeling overwhelmed is one of my worst things to happen to me. So I guess when you feel overwhelmed, you're stressed. But when I'm overwhelmed, it's like I can flick a switch and I feel the pain start. I feel the brain fog set in. And I'm fortunate because I have someone here who says, breathe, breathe. It's not as bad as you think. I can help you with this. I can do that. And I'm fortunate that way. Not everybody has that. They don't have someone. But I recognize and I'm trying to deal with that feeling overwhelmed. And so to prevent that, I find I have to space things out, just like you said, you have to space things out. I've gotten those so that back-to-back meetings don't overwhelm me. But to me, it's just I'm getting used to that. So it's just a thing that happens, right? But
Yes.
every now and then a wrench gets thrown into it. And then it does become a bit overwhelming. But yeah, I find that's my worst. And I say stress is my trigger, but that overwhelming feeling is actually the biggest trigger. And that includes stress, of course. And yeah, but I have to, I do deep breathing, I do box breathing, and to calm myself down. And even strangely as this sounds, when I become overwhelmed, I can feel my asthma start to flare up. So it's not just fibromyalgia that suffers as a result of stress and being overwhelmed. It's everything, right? It's everything. That's such a something that you really have to learn techniques to deal with feeling overwhelmed. And it's same with anxiety, right? You there are techniques you can use to keep your anxiety levels down. So and the thing is, I know too that there are things I know I'm going to do that even before I do them, I know they're going to affect my fibromyalgia, and I'm going to do them.
Because
So
you're making a conscious choice to do it
yes,
because it's something you want to do.
yes,
And then
yes.
what do you do?
Well, then I try to get back on track, and but usually that's why you get into that cycle, right? That goes into January and February. But I'm getting better at doing that because I'm involved in many things, as you know, and so I have to be a little more careful about that what knowing what I'm doing is affecting my fibromyalgia because I might have a meeting in 2 days and I know I can't crash before meeting a meeting that's important, right? An important meeting.
Mhm.
So I find the busier I am, the less I'm willing to jeopardize my fibromyalgia. So I make wiser choices, I think. And yeah, it's uh, my daughter made me an advent calendar, and actually they're advent socks, and she puts candy and things into them every day. So every day I get an advent sock, but she has a box on the table and says it goes from the advent sock into that box. And it's things like turtles and Hershey kisses and Toblerone bars, and she knows and I know that I'm going to eat them if they're sitting in front of me. And so she puts them in a box and she puts them away where I can't see them. And then when I'm having a good day, I'll say, okay, I'd like something from the box, right?
Mhm.
In the past, I've eaten everything that comes out of the socks. And of course, by Christmas Day, I can hardly function. So, so yeah, I've learned, you see, I have things to do between now and Christmas, so I have to ration my chocolate and sugar. So I think that's things like that help, right? But that's asking for help because I knew that was an issue. I got the box. I said, "Can you control this box for me?" So I think you're frozen, Lynn. I think we've lost you. So, talking about different things that we can do, though, to make the holidays easier, and I've mentioned this before, is spread it out. So, one thing I've done is shop in November. And as of yet, I haven't been in a store shopping for me. So, Amazon, I've used Amazon a lot. I've even used Amazon to wrap and deliver parcels for me. And that sounds silly because if the parcel's going to someone just across town, I could easily drive it there. But that's just one more thing I have to do. So if I order it from Amazon, which I'm going to do anyway, and I get them to wrap it, I put in the address and they deliver it to the other side of town. So I don't have to make that trip. And people laugh when I say that. Something else I did this year, and I'm glad to see you back, Lynn. Something else I did this year was first time ever. My sister-in-law in Newfoundland, I asked her what I buy gifts for her granddaughter and grandson. And I said, they're getting older now. I give them books and I give them puzzles and things like that. And I said to her, any ideas what they'd like this year? And she said, I do actually, and I can pick it up if you want. And I thought, hmm. And then I thought, you know what? Sure. I'll e-transfer the money. You go right ahead. And first time I've ever done anything like that. And the kids got what they wanted because their grandmother knew what they wanted. And I didn't have to get it, box it, send it. And so, yeah, it's letting go of things. You can let them go and it's okay. You know, that I've never done that in the past, let somebody shop for me. So it's okay to let things go. I had just moved on, Lynn, to things that we can do to
Yes.
make life easier for ourselves.
When technology works, it's great.
It
But I'm
is.
back. Yeah, good
I just
good
kept
pivot.
talking.
You know, one of the things that I wanted to mention was that one hack is plan to go to some social events. If you receive an invitation, you know, it's not an all or nothing scenario. You can pick the level of involvement very often that you can do. I have a really happy memory of a Christmas concert at high school for my daughter Anna. And this Christmas concert was 3 hours long. And I thought, oh my goodness, I can't go and sit there for an hour on those bleachers, let alone for three. What am I going to do about this? Because this is about family, doing things that I would like to do and supporting my daughter. And so I just said, call me when you know that you're going to be going on. And she was in the band and some of her friends were in the choir and I wanted to see them all. And so said right up front, I'm not going to be there for a full 3 hours. Call me or text me before 15 minutes before, and you will see me come back through the back door of the auditorium. I'll be there. And that's exactly what I did. And I was able to just pop in. I didn't disturb anybody. I was able to sit down in a chair near the back of the auditorium. And I actually recorded the band because another family member couldn't be there because of work. And so I was there. The other person got to hear it. I supported my daughter. I had fun and I got there. And I know you mentioned you were involved with that Jingle Bell run or something last year and you got all dressed up. And how did you change that this year?
I didn't get dressed up. We actually bought these huge socks from Amazon, and we were going to put leg holes in them and go as a Christmas sock. And it, we were busy, and it just seemed like overwhelming. It seemed too much to have to get this costume ready. So, quite frankly, I told the friends that we were meeting at the run that we weren't dressing up this year, and they said, great. They didn't want to either, but they always felt like they had to because we did. And I put a Santa Claus hat on my head and off I went.
And you've got those wonderful memories of dressing up last year, and they're sort of carrying you through for this year without the same commitment.
Yes, and it was a lot of commitment because, for one thing, my daughter went as a Christmas tree. That took a lot of work,
Oh my
wrapping garland around her and putting lights on her. And but it actually I enjoyed it more because it was more about having a conversation with my friends. Who these particular friends I haven't seen in over a year, and it wasn't about the costume because last year it was all about the costume, people wanting to take pictures of the costume, and it was all about the costume. And this year it was all about the people we were with. So, in fact, I enjoyed it more without the costume. Isn't it? Didn't expect to, thought I'd be letting everybody down. And when we got there, they're like, oh, thank goodness you didn't change your mind because, it was just so much effort to get ready because there's actually uh, uh, what's called a Santa shuffle in the morning and then the reindeer run in the afternoon. So, it's a lot of work to get ready for a run, come home, and then have to get ready again to go back. And it was amazing. It was, like I said, more about the people.
So you prioritized what was important to you, which was being with the people, and they were so grateful.
Yep.
And you changed the expectations on you, of you, by you.
And the
And
and the expectations on them.
yes, and so you had um, an opportunity to have some fun. So another hack that I wanted to share um, is we do cook a turkey in our house at the holiday time. And there are different ways you can do it. Sometimes you get that frozen turkey and you have to thaw it and babysit it for days and lift it, which isn't the best thing for me to be doing. So I came to getting a cook from frozen stuffed turkey. And other members of my family did it. It was successful, and I thought, hey, I'm going to try that. So that's what I do now. And I find then that I handle the turkey once or putting it in the oven. It does its thing. And then I have someone else, AKA my brother-in-law, lift it out of the oven because it's so heavy lifting it up. And and then he's always charged with doing the carving and everything. So I let that go. And again, the many hands make light work in the kitchen and getting things set up for the various meals that one might have when family's around. So um, and I heard you express that you realized how much that lady really enjoyed getting those gifts for you,
Mhm.
for her grandchildren, and how we can give other people joy by working together as a
Yes.
team. And and so we could be thinking about that.
So interestingly, and I know I said this before we came on the air, so to speak, is I've actually rearranged Christmas. I have always found Christmas Day difficult. I am overwhelmingly exhausted halfway through the day. I have a hard time staying awake, and I have always been the one to make the meal, and now my husband and my youngest daughter help me with that, but still I just find it overwhelming. So uh, even before COVID, we, instead of getting up early to open our gifts, we open them on Christmas Eve, which is new. And since COVID, we've swapped out Christmas turkey for pizza. So
Yeah.
homemade pizza, but
Mhm.
it's so much easier to do something like that. And none of us were married to the idea of we have to have turkey and we have to have it for the next 2 weeks. And so we uh, we actually have switched it out. Sometimes we have a fondue. Sometimes but mostly we have pizza, and it's taken so much pressure off. And finding I enjoy Christmas Day so much better. I am not exhausted when we go to my oldest daughter's place and my grandson opens his gifts, and I'm not as exhausted as would be if we hadn't changed it up. And I look forward to Christmas more now when I don't have the heavy feeling that this is what I'm going to feel like by the end of the day. So, and I make sure I get out. I never had time to get out for a walk. I barely had time to open my gifts. And now I find it's so much better because we take time. One person opens a gift at a time and we take turns. And Christmas Day, that's done. So, and I don't have the big turkey to prepare. So, I have time to go out walking and talk to people and call people and wish some Merry Christmas. And yes, so it doesn't always have to follow the traditional path. You
Yeah.
can
You're
change it
right.
to whatever works for you.
Yep. And that can change from year to year as well, just
Yes,
depending. So feeling that you can be a bit fluid in how you do things. Uh,
exactly.
Allow yourself to have changes,
Hmm. Change can
make
be a good thing.
changes. It really can. It really can. We've done that in my family as well, and we travel ahead of time because we can have stormy weather and things like that, and it takes that stress away. So, well, we've given a few hacks. We've shared that we struggle, but that we have that there are things we know that a person can do
Hmm.
to enjoy the holiday season. And um, so I really hope that there have been a few things that our watchers can use and that it may help them this season and other holiday times, because everything that we're saying really applies to every holiday that comes up,
Yes.
whether it's New Year's, whether it's any of the all of the religious holidays that people celebrate during the year, and even some of our national holidays. Just um, give yourself time to plan and do the things that are really important to you, and be with the people you want to be with.
And Lynn, just before we go, I must mention that one of FAC's members, um, the way she plans for the big day is she starts 3 days out, and she cooks or prepares her carrots, put them in water, puts them in the fridge. Next day, she prepares her potatoes, different things like that, makes her
Yep.
stuffing. And so she spreads it out over a 3, 4 day period. And by the day, Christmas Day, she has everything just ready to go. She's not there peeling potatoes while everybody else is enjoying themselves. Or so yeah, there's many ways that you can prepare and spread out the work. It's we we tend I find a lot of people with fibromyalgia tend to be a bit of martyrs, and so we have to ask for help. We have to admit that we have to spread things out. We have to accept that we have fibromyalgia and realize that there are things we have to do to accommodate that and still have a good life, like Morgan Freeman said, not let it control our lives. So, yes, I just, to end off, would like to wish everybody a happy holiday season and all the best in the new year.
Happy holidays, everybody. And to you, Trudy, and everybody on here.
You too, Lynn, and enjoy your time with your family.
That's my wish for everyone. Bye now.
Bye.